4 years ago today, Shan'ann had a gut feel about returning to Saratoga Trail. Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. On the afternoon of August 7th, Shan'ann Watts felt uneasy. She'd been arguing with her husband all week in North Carolina and had rationalized that his odd behavior was all because of Nutgate. But on the last day, something didn't sit right with Shan'ann. Ominously, something didn't sit right with Watts either. If he'd arrived in North Carolina with the deadly intention of secretly poisoning Shan'ann to get rid of almost 15-week-old Nico, well, a week later, he realized he'd failed. Now they were going to return to Colorado and he to Kessinger, with Shan'ann still pregnant. And talking Shan'ann out of going through with the pregnancy wasn't going to work either. Before we get to the rest of this episode, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. Like, share, leave a comment, and let's get started. Now, many people who followed the Watts case mistakenly assume that Watts never tried to broker a divorce, that he never even attempted to deal with a pregnancy amidst the affair. In reality, he did. But clearly he didn't do enough, he didn't go far enough to convince Shan'ann that the marriage was really over. He didn't go far enough to actually express just how serious his intentions were. When Shan'ann said, "Tell me what is going on," well, then he wasn't able to tell her. Now by Friday, the end of the week, Shan'ann assumed things were hunky-dory again. I'm talking about the last week of her life. Hunky-dory enough for her to leave the girls with him so she could go on a business trip. Of course, Watts used this mini break to go on a date with Kessinger and also make up his mind about how to permanently fix the messy situation he was in. Below are a series of texts Shan'ann sent on the final Tuesday of her and the girls' lives. And it reads as follows: August 7, 2018. 05:17, it's pretty early in the morning. Shan'ann told Addie Maloney, her friend, "Chris told me last night he's scared to death about this third baby and is happy with just Bella and Celeste and doesn't want another baby." Addie comforted Shan'ann, telling her that Watts is just scared and everything will be fine once the baby is born. Shan'ann replied, "He has changed. I don't know who he is." Addie asked what she means, and Shan'ann replied, "He hasn't touched me all week, kissed me, talked to me, except for when I'm trying to figure out what is wrong. He's been distant since I left." Later in the conversation, Shan'ann told Addie, "I told him last night I don't feel safe with him after what he said about the baby, and if he loves me, he would hold me and tell me it would be okay, give me something, and he did nothing but go to bed." At 16:26 that same day, obviously later in the afternoon, Shan'ann told Watts, "Something else is wrong that you're not saying." Because lack of communication doesn't cause you to not be present or touch me or love me. Besides, the lack of communication hasn't been with me in 6 weeks. This fucking sucks. I really don't want to leave here. About 40 minutes later, at 10 minutes past 5, Watts received a calendar alert, flight WN1643 from RDU to DEN. And then that night, 22:58 hours, Watts' work phone reconnected with a Netgear 27 router, the router of their home. Now, Shan'ann was right. Chris Watts had changed. Shan'ann had also realized he had been distant the entire time in North Carolina. In fact, come to think of it, it went further than that. Shan'ann admitted to Addie that she'd even told Watts to his face that she didn't feel safe with him. Despite being in the same general environment prior to their flight, Shan'ann texted Watts, "Something else is wrong that you're not saying." Shan'ann by now had also cottoned on to the fact that things had actually been weird for the past 6 weeks. In other words, just prior to leaving the safety cocoon of her family and the protection of their home, Shan'ann had a gut feel that she didn't want to leave, that she was afraid to be with him, and that she didn't know who he was. All of this was 100% spot on. At 22:58, Watts' phone connected with the route in the basement of 2825 Saratoga Trail. Without being fully conscious of it at the time, Watts had just gone through a trial run with Shan'ann of what it was like traveling with her at night and her returning home. On the night of August 12th, running into the early hours of August 13th, Watts waited for Shan'ann, knowing that less than a week earlier, exactly how she was likely to enter and move through the house. Did she go to her office first, or the kitchen, or upstairs? This would inform him on where to lie in wait for her in order to catch her by surprise. So I'm not going to take it further than that, but it certainly begs the question, why did Shan'ann not listen to her intuition? She was right. Why didn't she listen to it? And I think one's also got to wonder, when Shan'ann arrived home after this whole trip to Phoenix, Arizona, did she not have an intuition then? And the answer is yes. The answer is the intuition she felt just before returning from North Carolina was reawakened, was even stronger on that Saturday when she was in Arizona. And that is why she communicated it to Nicole Atkinson. And that's also why Nicole Atkinson knew something was wrong, knew that Shan'ann was upset, and knew to go and see her on Monday. I think if we are serious about asking the question, we should also try to answer it. Why did Shan'ann not respond or not do something about her intuition? She was spot on. She did suspect an affair, but then didn't really pursue it. Why didn't she do that? And I think part of the reason is her interest in multi-level marketing and the whole business that she was in. If you look at her social media during this period when she was so upset, it's all smiling. It's putting a silver lining on kind of a bad situation. And the whole thriving narrative, she was used to doing that. She was used to making a success or making things work by kind of putting a narrative onto it, by almost sticky taping a narrative onto it. And then by saying certain words, you could basically change reality. And one wonders whether this psychology of not really doing something about it, but saying something about it, would really change everything. And so if you don't address really what was going on with Chris, he would just sort of come round. And of course, reality turned out to be not only a little bit different, but horribly, terrifyingly, permanently different. So I think one can make the argument that the MLM was something that was tempting her into wishful thinking, that you could wishful think, magic your way out of a difficult situation. And of course, the reality is you can't. You can't conjure reality with a few words. Anyway, I hope you found this episode interesting. If you have, we might do another one dealing with the run-up to the fatal day. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.